Hi, it's Robbin McMahon here. I'm the host of Parenting Our Future. And if you're listening to this podcast, I want to thank you so much for being here. I also want you to know that I am a former angry mom. I used to yell and rage and threaten and punish my kids because I wasn't getting the cooperation or the behavior that I felt I should be getting. And I struggled for many years not knowing how to change or knowing what to do differently. It wasn't until I found the world of peaceful parenting that I learned why my kids acted the way they did, and also why I was so angry and triggered. I was able to heal my anger and leave my triggers behind so that I could focus on being the calm and confident parent I always expected myself to be. I can tell you that feeling connected to your kids is the best feeling in the world. My two boys are teenagers now, and we have a strong relationship that is rooted in deep connection. And where there is connection, there's cooperation. Parenting is the most important job we do, but it's the hardest job we do. And we do it without understanding the fundamentals of the way our kids grow and develop. And we do it without knowing the way their brains work or what their behavior is actually really telling us. So it's no wonder it's so hard. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, this is harder than I thought it would be. And that's where I come in. I can help you and I can support you so that you can have the cooperation and enjoy being a parent. You can book a free call with me on my website, parentingforconnection.com. And if you want to download my free guide, How to Turn a No into Cooperation, go to triggerfreeparents.com. I really hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody, it's Robbin. Welcome back to another episode of Parenting Our Future. I'm so glad to have you back here. And finally, we are getting a dad's perspective. I don't really mean finally. He's probably not the only dad I've had on the show, but we're going to talk specifically about dads and parenting. And I have somebody who you're going to love to talk. Well, you're going to love to hear from is Jason Kreidman, who's the founder of Dad University. I love that, which is an educational company dedicated to helping dads go from overwhelmed and confused to calm and confident fathers. Through his courses, YouTube videos, which are super cool, and social media, he's working to improve the lives of dads around the world. I so much. Jason, welcome. And I just want to say you are a dad to a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. So you are in it. You are in it.
But when they were 2 and 4, we would say, well, you're in it too. But I think until maybe they're out of the house, you're in it. So.
Yeah, you're in it. Yeah. Well, it's true. You're in it in different ways at different stages.
Correct.
All the things.
Very different ways.
Okay, so I get so many questions from my clients, from my community about dads. And there is a lot of frustration out there from moms. I hear it all the time about husbands not being involved.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening, who have a husband that maybe isn't as involved, maybe comes home from work, sits down, scrolls on his phone, doesn't engage with the kids, let's talk about can we talk about why maybe they're not involved first? And then how do we get them more involved? Like why would you come home and just sit and scroll on your phone instead of engaging with your kids?
Well, I mean, we can talk about the, philosophy or some of the reasons. I have always maintained, and this is not necessarily a positive thing, and this is what I'm trying to change, that oftentimes parenting isn't painful or rewarding enough for men. And it sounds kind of strange, but, what are they getting out of it? Or what is the fear that they might have if they're not doing it well? And what happens, and the reason, or I think that happens because we are more reactive than proactive. We don't to ourselves, hey, if I'm going to put in a bunch of time right now, it's just going to be easier down the road. Let's just, it's like going to the dentist. Men don't go to the dentist until they have the cavity. And so from a parenting standpoint, that activity of being really involved, certainly we are stereotyping right now because there are plenty of dads who are involved. But I think there's a couple of reasons. I think one, she'll do it. She might just care more And so when he comes home, he knows that she's the one who will handle it. And that can be from years of doing that, from his own upbringing, from, I mean, there's all kinds of things we can talk about, but I just think in general, the pain or the reward is not significant enough to do it.
Okay,
And
so and I think what I'm hearing you say is, like, for a lot of moms, being a mother is often a measure of their worth. We have been told all of our lives as little girls growing up that we're going to be moms. We're given baby dolls to nurture and care for, but that's not the same for boys. And so there isn't as much at stake in terms of their worth, in terms of maybe what they feel is their impact, maybe.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, many men then will, value themselves by what they do, their work.
Right.
Now, here's something interesting, is that I was just a sponsor of the Stay at Home Dad Conference.
I love it.
The at home dad now, because there are dads who are not necessarily, they work from home or do. But this is the complete opposite. Now, these are the primary caretakers in their families. And so that was a very interesting perspective to hear these men, because they're the ones who care deeply. I mean, the ones who are in and out daily with the children, and the primary caretakers, they're at home, and, some young, some, a little bit older as far as the children. And so it was a completely different dynamic that I got to, interact with and hear from. And I think they experience unique challenges that women don't experience, because there's stereotypes and, generalizations and things like that. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience to do that. But I think you touched on it. We're sort of conditioned that way, that it just doesn't matter as much to us because of how we're raised, and we are shown, our self-worth is tied up in what we can accomplish and, what we can do, not how we can impact the other humans in our lives. And so I'm not agreeing with that, but I just think that that's some of what's
right. Okay. And again, we're talking in general terms.
Yeah, we're going to stereotype and generalize and do all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, and I know many dads that are very engaged, and
of course,
those aren't the guys we're talking about. So sorry, guys.
Right.
You just said something though that I want to circle back to, and it is that she'll do it.
Yep.
She'll do it. So and boy, that's true.
Yeah.
She'll do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing in a relationship. It's like, what will you be willing to put up with? I mean, that conversation happens all the time. It's like, well, why will he do this or act this way? It's like, well, because she puts up with it. Or, and vice versa. I mean, if the same thing with her, she's going to do something or act in a certain way because he tolerates it. We all have a tolerance for that.
But do you think moms do too much and don't give the opportunity to dads to do things?
Oh, yeah,
because I also know there's a control thing there too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is part of the, some of the suggestions I have. One of the suggestions is, for example, is the criticism, instead of reinforcement. What happens is, because she feels so much pressure to be mom and right and do everything that, is correct and taking care of the children, that she can also be critical of the way that he does it. And the fact is like, well, why did you just put on the children's clothes that way? Or, that's not how you're supposed to do this, or you were supposed to handle it in this situation, and so there's this criticism. And as a result of that, he will back off.
100%.
It's like, well, then if I'm not doing it right, I don't want to do it. That's a joke between my wife and I when, we first got together, and she consciously hates, she hates ironing. And so she was like, wow, Jason, you are so good at ironing. And she knew how to do that. And so of course I was like, all right, I'm good at ironing. So I would take on the ironing, it's just how you respond to your partner, and that interaction goes a long way. And that's, I think oftentimes one of the mistakes that women will do or moms will do is they will criticize. They will, and the truth is that there is more than one right way to do whatever it is that you're doing. And so if instead she can provide that positive reinforcement, when you see that he takes the kids without anybody asking and goes and does something, you say, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for taking the kids. Or, and not, well, he's supposed to take the kids, he's half the parent. Like, instead showing that appreciation and showing that, and this is what I teach guys. Like, this is what I teach dads. It's about the reinforcement and the positivity. And so it's the same thing for the moms.
Okay. Well, and I think too, look, you guys are partners. And I think we have to challenge that it isn't a measure of our worth, what my child is dressed as, or what my child says and thinks and does and acts. And so therefore, when I was a kid and my dad took me to my mom's work with my dress on backwards, that's, I feel like it's a measure of his worth. It becomes the family joke. Where my mom would have been was mortified, but whatever, it's fine. So I think we need to be less worried about what other people think from a mom's perspective and let dads do the thing their way, make some mistakes along the way. Mistakes, I'm using air quotes because like, it's just different.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So I have a client right now, and we were talking about, she's got 3 young kids, like 6 and younger. And her husband works during the week, and they've been having these conversations about how she really needs more help. She just had a death in the family. And so she's really reeling from that. And so she's got some mental and emotional stuff going on, right? Just some heavy stuff. And she wants more help from him. It might come out as nagging. It might come out as criticism. He drags his heels coming home. And when the weekend came, this last time we talked, he planned a day out with friends, which meant she doesn't have any help. She's in a different state where her family isn't around. It's, anyway. So, we had a big, long conversation about it. I can tell you what I told her, but first I want to hear what you would say. How would somebody like that connect with their husband and ask for help in a way that he's going to want to help and not feel like because look, it'd be easy to put him down and make him feel like,
and I'd be curious of that history of that, where he has felt maybe like he's not done things correctly, or he has, here's like kind of the bottom line straight to it. She has to stop tolerating. It's like
hold on. She has to stop tolerating it.
Yeah. Well, she has to stop tolerating the fact that he's not helping.
Okay.
I can take the picture from my own family, and my wife, who's very assertive, that's why I married her, will not take it. Like, literally will say, that's it, like this. And so I don't have that room to do that.
Right.
It's, and so for many women that can be difficult because they don't want to feathers. They don't want to, but for many men, granted, this is exactly what I talk to men about on the other side. So I'm trying to get the man and say, listen, you're working all day. When you come home, it's now 50-50. It's not you were working all day, and so she's still taking care of the house.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's now 50-50. So, and in some cases, now it's maybe 75-25 you. Like, because, she needs a break of doing something. So those are the teachings that I have.
Love it.
What she can do is literally has to stop tolerating it. She has to stop being passive about it, but on the positive side, I think she does have to just kind of recognize and look at, is she giving positive reinforcement, expressing gratitude, when she does it? And is she having those honest conversations that, when it's not in the heat of the moment, that conversation about, listen, I really appreciate what you do and how you do it, but either I need to get help, which means hiring help, or you're going to have to step in to do it. And I'm willing to make a sacrifice, whatever we need to do financially, or, whatever your situation is. But, as a couple, you have to kind of come together and say, like, what can work for both of us?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's like, in couples therapy, you learn, it's like, it's not, hey, this is what I need and this is what I need. It's what works for both of us. Like, I may have a need, but if you're not able or willing to provide that need, like, we're at a standstill. It's not going to work. So we have to actually come together and, it's mediation, whatever you want to call it, and say, here was what my need is. Hey, I know that you want to go out with the boys and you got to do this. So how can we both get something of what we want to do that? And that approach, I think, for men is like, oh, okay, like, we're both going to get something out. Like, it's a win-win versus like the lose-lose.
Well, what I love about what you're saying is that is a universal truth. That's how we want to approach parenting too. Like, how do we create a win-win? And what it involves is me communicating my feelings and needs, me giving you space for your feelings and needs, where nobody's criticizing each other, nobody's judging each other, right? It's just the fundamentals of communication. And I talk about this ad nauseum, right? Like, I talk about it all the time.
So what was your advice to her?
It was very similar. I said, okay, put yourself.
I want to make sure I got it right. So
yes, no, and I'll tell you what I said. I said, okay, look, we got to put this into perspective. I said, I'm gonna guess, and of course I've known her for a while, so I knew that I was right. That as soon as he comes home, it might be like shoving the kids at him. She's miserable. She's frustrated. You didn't come home on time. Like, I need you to do this. I need you to do that. Nobody wants to come home to that. Right. And sometimes we need to be the hero in the situation, and we need to rise above a little bit. And so that does mean, like, I'm going to zip it, even though there's things that I want to say, I'm going to zip it. I'm going to let you come home and we're going to celebrate you. Like I said, how often does he come home and the kids are excited to see him? She's like, not very often. How often does he come home and you run and give him a hug, or not run and give him a hug, but too.
Yeah.
Good. Like, what? That's like, let's celebrate him when he gets home. Let's make him feel good. And it sounds so contrived. And I can hear people saying, oh, well, I shouldn't have to do that. But the thing is that it's like, that's how relationships work. We want him to feel good. I want me to feel good too, but like, someone's got to start it. Right. So start it. So since you are the one with the awareness, you start it. And that opens up the opportunity for you to be able to have that conversation and say, hey, I need help. And because you're going to pay no matter what, you're going to pay.
Well, I know how to get his attention really well. So my mother was a very successful author on personal relationships. She wrote a book called The 10-Second Kiss. And if he was to come home and she gave him a 10-second kiss, which is a really long time for somebody like coming in the door, I guarantee you he will listen to whatever it is that you have to say.
Aww.
And so that, those types of changes, though, those sort of surprises are just really, really powerful. Like, I can say my wife the other day, we had a just brief, but when we're in the morning, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Brief kiss goodbye. And I was off. And when I was pulling out of the driveway, she came outside and gave me a much better kiss, if you will. I happy the entire day. Like it was something that, that's not a common thing. It's not something, whatever, but whatever it was, it triggered. And you better believe that I gave her positive reinforcement, because I was like, that was so great. It made me, I felt so good. And that is something we're still, 17 years, we're still learning that matters, there's so much of that we don't do. And so I think some of it too, and I talk about this a lot with the men, is just taking the responsibility on. You don't want to, you don't think you should, you don't think it's your fault. None of that. It doesn't matter. Yeah. You take on the responsibility and you do it, and you see changes in other people around you. It just, So
Oh, I want to, that kiss is a really beautiful suggestion. Thank you for suggesting that. Say hi to your mom for all of us, because I think
yeah,
that's great.
she passed away in
Oh,
2011. But yeah, she was like, multiple New York Times bestseller and like a very
yeah.
successful woman in relationships. So
Oh, well, I'm sorry for your
I
loss. Thank you
learned
for that legacy.
I learned quite a bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, but here's what I see. And as you were talking about it, I was sort of envisioning it, where you come together and it's so intimate, but even in those 10 seconds, I think you can communicate a lot. Like, you sort of get the stress. I don't know, like there's a lot
Yeah.
that's going on within that kiss. And then finally just sort of
Well, and I
like,
guarantee you
thank you, you're
for
here.
her, especially if she's home all day, she is not going to feel like doing. I mean, that's not like that is not the feeling that you have when he comes home. You have the feeling of throwing the child at them and, whatever food that you could be making and whatever else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Feels like another suggestion too. And this was from someone in my course, in one of my courses. He said he has an agreement with his wife that he actually enters the house coming home from work through the back. And he goes to their bedroom and has like 10 minutes to decompress.
Love it.
It's like Mr. Rogers. He takes off his shoes and puts on the different shoes, puts on or takes whatever. He has 10 minutes and the kids know it too. The kids know dad comes home. You don't bother him for 10 minutes. And it's sort of this agreement that he kind of, he meditates, he does whatever he needs to do. And then he is on, and he said, it's been a life changer for him.
You know what? I love that.
Present, he goes right in, and they have young kids and he's with them, and, he feels better about it.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because that's what I told her too. I said, we've got to teach him the steps to transition. And the steps to transition means, acknowledging how you're feeling without judgment, and setting an intention for how you want to show up, and then visualizing that too, but making a break between the workspace and what happened at work and being at home with your family and your kids, and getting into that mode. Like, no, I can get into silly mode now. I can get into playful mode. I can get into
helpful mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, things aren't just all about the dad jokes. Okay. So I think that's all really good. And so really what we're talking about here is communicating, not in the heat of the moment, but in a moment where you can say, how would you start that conversation? How would a mom best approach the situation with their spouse?
Well, I think before sort of the kind of the first thing to do is actually have a conversation about responsibilities. And I mean, because we kind of have to take a step back. Like, okay, men will often do what they're told. I mean, they like, especially if they wanting to please, and they want, because for most men, they want to make their wife happy. Like, that's what they want to do. I mean, that's the number one thing, especially like with the pregnancy. Like, one of the top questions I get is like, how can I help my pregnant wife? Like, that's one of the major questions. So I think having that conversation about the responsibilities and being very, very clear, what are our responsibilities related to the kids and the house and my wife and I literally, when our children were young, we had it written out on a calendar. Like, Monday dinner, Tuesday lunch, Wednesday you're taking the child, Thursday, like, it was very, very clear what our responsibilities were, so that we could then kind of visualize it all and say, wow, I actually can see, like, you're doing all of this at this time. And what that ended up doing was having that discussion about, okay, well, how can we both wanted to go to the gym. Okay, well, what is the time that would be convenient for us to do that? Well, I want to go in the morning. Well, I want to go at night. Well, no, and you'd have that discussion.
Negotiate.
Yeah, and you kind of negotiate with it and say, okay, you can go with your boys once a month and play golf for 4 hours, but as a result of that, I would like this. Or, I mean, you got to be careful. It's like, it's not a tit for tat, but it's kind of like, looking at it in total, what can we give to each other so that we can get what we need? It's like it is a negotiation.
Yeah, it is, and it is you're splitting up duties. And look, it took two people to get those kiddos. So you're in this too. This was your decision too, hopefully. In most cases, it's your decision too, Dad. So we're in this together, and gone are the days where moms do it all. We need help, and parenting today is so much harder than it's ever been for lots of many reasons. So many reasons. And okay, so we're going to talk about responsibilities, and we're going to negotiate. And so, but how do you bring that up? Like, I still sort of have that same question. Like, how do you approach even that? Because if we're going to talk, how do we approach a situation where you're not going to shut down on me? How do I talk to you?
Yeah. Well, I think you sandwich it. I mean, that's, you sandwich it.
Sandwich it.
That's the, that is the number one way to, say something that's not positive. Like it's, listen, first I want to let you know how much I appreciate how hard you work and the amount of time you put in and all of, like, say that. And then you go into, I want to, and you don't put it at he's doing this or you're doing this wrong. It's, I'd like to figure out a way that we can both feel really good about this. It's like, and like for me, I've always been more on board when it's a team. It's like, it's not, well, I want this and you want that. And so what do we do? It's, how do we figure this out together?
And I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when you use the we approach, he's not going to feel attacked. He's not going to feel like, oh, here she goes again. It's got to come from a place of love. But I also do think, and this is one of the other tips, women, if they need it, have to ask for the help.
Well, and I think, yeah, we can't presuppose you're a mind reader, right? And that definitely is something that we get caught in, right? We think we told you. We think we're pretty sure we told you, right. And we didn't.
Tell me again.
Yeah. Tell me again anyway. Yeah. So look, we've got to show respect to our partner. We are a team. Asking for what you want, not assuming they know. If you think they know, ask again. And sometimes you do have to be the one to say, look, I really appreciate all that you're doing. You are making a beautiful life for us. And I'd love to see if there's some ways that we could work together, because I am feeling a bit burnt out, overwhelmed,
and he could be feeling that way too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I want our life to be as happy as possible. That's right. The sandwich, right? It's positive. It's my request and then positive. And I think you can say things too, like, would you be willing to talk about how we can take a few things off my plate? Because I'd like to be happier. I'd like to feel like I have more energy, and I'm really struggling right now. Yeah. I think it's hard to ignore that when somebody says it like that, versus you need to start doing things more around this house. And if I see you come home again and you sit on that couch and you just tune us all out because of your phone, I'm going to take that phone, I'm going to shove it.
It's almost as if you've done that before.
I have not.
Never.
I tell my husband that the bald spot that he has on top of his head is from him looking down at his phone and me giving him like this stink eye.
Yeah, no, I know. I think also too, when you put it as a we, and even you can go even further if you know your husband by saying, because I want to be more present for you too.
Right.
Then if you even go in that direction, as far as like, you don't have to go too far, and say, I'll promise intimacy or, anything like that.
Yeah.
Far, but it is something where he will feel appreciated or feel the fact that maybe you want to be more connected. I think that goes a long way also of listen, I want to be more present. Like, I want us to have fun, but I can't, like, I'm too tired, and so it's either we have to give something up. If you financially have the ability, then it's getting help in some way, whatever that is. When we had younger children, it was interesting. A lot of people, we live in a nicer area and we had the ability to hire somebody, but we hired somebody to do all the errands and do all the other, so we could spend the time with our children.
Yeah.
So it wasn't to watch our children. Like we didn't need a nanny to watch our children. We needed a nanny to go do the errands, the cleaners, clean up the thing. Like that we needed so we could actually go and enjoy ourselves. And so that was interesting because people are like, that's what the person runs to Costco for you. I'm like, yeah, because that's the stuff that takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, on the heels of the pandemic, we're really lucky because most places have shop online, pick up, or shop online, deliver. So
that excuse
can even get away with it even more now. Well, no, it's great though. And that's the thing. We've got to get creative. We've got to use those things and not feel like, oh no, I got to go do it myself. Like, no, you don't. I love shopping personally. So like, you watch the kids, I'll go to Costco. I'm happy to go to Costco, buy what we need, and then maybe pick up a top or, I don't know, some socks. I don't know, something that makes me happy too. Right. So, so it's whatever works for you. But if you're feeling this way, you've really got to talk about it and talk about it open and honest. But I still know that there are dads out there that are still really resistant. And so at what point do you say, maybe there's some therapy that needs to happen, or like, I mean, I know there's a lot of women right now that are listening and are like wanting to shove their husbands into dad university and get them
they can
under your umbrella. Yes. We'll show them all the ways that they can connect with you. But is there a point at which it's like, okay, we're not getting anywhere here. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I think so. But I also think that oftentimes we don't look within. I think we are quick. Everybody is quick to jump on to the other and blame and criticize. And I think we do need to have some introspection. And let's say for the moms to like, okay, have I really expressed gratitude to him? Like that really shown him that I appreciate, because like for men, that's huge, showing that appreciation and the gratitude. A guy will do anything for a woman, anything, if he feels appreciated and feels, there's almost nothing better that like when a guy feels like she appreciates him and really thinks about him. Like, I mean, my mother used to say like, the Taj Mahal was built for that. People like wars are started for that. Like, the fact is the man will do nearly anything for a woman. And so I think we all have to take sort of that responsibility and say, hey, am I providing gratitude? Have I actually asked for help in a constructive way? And so if you've done all of these things, because most people just say, yeah, I've done it. If you've really truly done it, and then there's just some sort of block that, then, you might need to go to therapy, or you need coaching, or you need your services or something. But I would say that in most cases, people haven't done the work. And so maybe a coach or a therapist can help them do that work, but sometimes they can just save the money and do it themselves and say, hey, okay, can I really try some other approaches? And obviously too, if you keep trying to do the same thing, and it's not working.
What does that say?
I mean, nobody, I don't know, but I don't think anyone's ever changed their behavior from complaints.
Right. Or lectures or putting you down.
Because my kids don't either. My kids don't either. I can complain that their rooms are clean and complain, but that's not cleaning their room. So it's not working. So you have to figure out other ways to do things, which is constructive. And wow, thank you so much for doing that. Or, hey, let's try this one thing, or how can we together do, like, there's just better ways of handling those kinds of situations. And so,
and there's a level of self-awareness and a level of vulnerability you need to have too, and again,
it's hard when you're tired.
It's hard when you're tired, when you can't see the forest for the trees, when you have a lot of beliefs about your spouse and there's resentment that builds up, when you have needs that aren't getting met, and women are very bad at getting their needs met, especially when they become mothers, then you're going to have feelings about those needs not getting met. Then we're going to have assumptions that, I have those needs and you're not making them for me. And why don't you ever bring me flowers? And why don't you do this for me? And why don't you, like, okay, everybody stop crazy town in your head. Right. And go, hey, can we talk about this? Because there's some things that I need that I'm just not getting. And I really want to be happy with you. And I want our life to be the best life possible. So can we talk about this? Because I'd like this. And so we are going to, as women, from here forward, we are going to appreciate our men because there's always something to appreciate of them, for them.
We need to appreciate you too. It's not a one-way street.
Yeah. No, I'm just talking about us. I'm taking responsibility for us. In order to get what we want, is my evil plan. We are going to appreciate them because we know that is unlocks the door, right? Opens them up. We're going to give them those 10-second smooches.
Yep. You will do anything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, okay. So it starts with that.
Yeah.
Starts with that. I am going to, as soon as I stop recording, I'm going to go over to my husband who happens to be off today. And I just saw him take some bins and put them in the garage out of the corner of my eye. And I
can't believe how amazing you were putting those bins away.
You just knew that they needed to go away. Yeah. And I'm going to give him a big fat smooch. So there you go.
It'll work.
Okay.
And he'll say, what else do you need? He'll say, what else do you need me to clean up? Like,
yeah. The Christmas decorations, I need you to bring those out now. Yeah, I do have a list. Anyway, so this is so great though. Thank you for giving us the dad's perspective. I know it's hard to talk in generalities and that sort of thing, but we're just going to do that. And there's no one relationship that is the same as anybody else's, of course. So people can find you, dads can find you, moms can find you at daduniversity.com. And you have an awesome YouTube channel. You are on Instagram as well.
TikTok. We're
awesome.
All over the place. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to start following you on TikTok too. So this has been so great. Thank you so much. And you are so generous. You have a tip sheet for us on how to...
4 tips to get your husband more involved. So
that's right. And that's in the parent toolbox.
Some of the things that we've talked about here, it'll kind of summarize them and just put them in very specific.
And use it as though it's an experiment. Just see how they work, because they will work. And I mean, we want a happier life.
And let us know. Let you know. Put comments back, to let you know how it works. Or if it doesn't, we'll revise it. But so it works pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. So you can find that at the Parent Toolbox. So parent-toolbox.com. And you guys know it is a free membership. It's updated every single week with new documents from experts from all over the parenting space. You are going to love it. And what Jason has to offer is really, really great. So Jason, thank you for being here. Thank you for Dad University. And we are all better for knowing how to communicate with our spouses just that little bit better, so we could all have a better relationship, which is a good foundation for our kids. That's what it's all about. It's good for our kids. It's good for us. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to this edition of my podcast, Parenting Our Future. I'm parent coach Robbin McMahon, and if you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with someone who you think might also need to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe, and if you like my work, I would be grateful if you gave me a 5-star rating. For those of you who like my content and want more, visit me at yellingcurebook.com to get your copy of my book and to find other resources to help you. Until next time, I am wishing you and your family peace and connection.